Hey everyone, this is Mason Hutchison, and you're listening to HerbRally, your daily herbal podcast. We come out with new episodes about 5 days a week, so be sure to tune in often. We have over 653 episodes, so feel free to peruse those episodes, and you're bound to find something of interest. Today's episode is yet another interview on the Herbalist Hour. This time it's with my good friend, Derek Haynes. Derek Haynes is known as the Chocolate Botanist, aka the Crazy Botanist, and you can find him on Instagram at the Chocolate Botanist. He's got about 13,000 followers there, and yeah, he just keeps people entertained, letting you all know about botany and plants and so forth. So today we talk about what a young Derek was like. We talk about hibiscus, bananas, GMOs, composting hair, giving flowers, houseplants, gardening, and a whole lot more. You can also check out Derek on his website at thechocolatebotanist.com. And of course, links will be in the show notes to that as well. Huge thanks to Derek for joining me on the show. Also wanted to let you know before we play the episode that you could also join us live for these Herbalist Hour interviews by becoming an HerbRally Schoolhouse member. And all you got to do for that is go to herballi.com/schoolhouse. I said that really fast. herballi.com/schoolhouse. And if you'd like to try your first 30 days for free, just use coupon code podcast at checkout. Then it's only $10 a month after that, and it's one of the best ways you could help support our work here at HerbRally by becoming an HerbRally Schoolhouse member. And we really want to say a huge thank you to all of our HerbRally Schoolhouse members. We've got around 200 in there, and we really appreciate the support. Also want to say another shout out and thank you to Torrin Frost. He's the Washington-based rapper that did our new theme song for the Herbalist Hour. If you'd like to learn more about him and hear his raps, you could go to @Torrin on Instagram. And let's see. Oh, I did want to mention Amanda, co-owner of HerbRally, as well as my wife, is now offering her photography services to herbal product businesses. So she's done work for Mountain Rose Herbs, 5 Flavors Herbs, and Herb Farm. So if you would like to look into having her take photographs of your products, you could email her amanda@herbrally.com. Again, that's amanda@herbrally.com, or you could just go to herballi.com/creative-services to learn more about what she offers for photography for herbal businesses. So that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for listening, and enjoy this episode with Derek Haynes, a.k.a. the Crazy Botanist, a.k.a. the Chocolate Botanist. Talk to you soon.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm joined by Derek Haynes, a.k.a. the Crazy Botanist, a.k.a. the Chocolate Botanist, a.k.a. Plant Daddy. Welcome to the show, Derek.
I am all of it. Thank you so much for having me, Mason. I am so excited to be here for the HerbRally peeps. We are rallying for the herbs. And if you didn't see this live, shame on you, because I am a whole vibe live. And for the fact that you missed me, you had your chance to interact with a black botanist. How many of you can say that? How many of you can say you know a botanist, much less a black one? And you missed out? Sad. So y'all just need to go ahead in the comments and tell Mason to get me back. And we'll see if he gives y'all grace for it.
Oh, believe me, Derek, I already have some ideas of different herbalist hours we could maybe co-lead and do, have you do some sort of co-host situation. You bring some of your community on and just kind of introduce the HerbRally community to you and your pals. So yeah, I'm excited for all that we have in store, especially for today. I've got some really good questions for you. And so first of all, I'd like to know, what was a young Derek Haynes like? Were you always into plants?
Yes, plants have been a part of the tapestry of my life forever. So plants have always been a fascination for me. So growing back up in New Bern, growing up back in the 90s, where everything was sepia and, there were all types of Tamagotchis dying left and right, I loved the cane grasses, the dandelions, the pampas grasses, other herbaceous perennials, which names I can't remember. There was one I thought it was like a V-shaped kind of floret, and I thought it made like dragonflies and grasshoppers because I always see the dragonflies on the plant. So you're the first person hearing that story, but the plants have just literally been a part of me. Plants, fermentation, fungi, that has been an ever-present part of my life. So when I finally understood, and this is again from like 4 or 5 till now, but in high school, junior year, when I finally understood like what a plant biologist does and how I love science and how these two things can mesh, you couldn't tell me anything. So that was my passion, and it still is.
You brought up pampas grass, and I remember when I was younger as well, I was very drawn to it. And it also kind of reminds me when I was younger, I really appreciated, do you know euphorbia? The euphorbias?
Yes.
Yeah, for whatever reason, they're not like medicinal herbs or anything like that. But I vividly remember when I was younger, I was very drawn to the pampas grass and the euphorbias. So how did you go from a enthusiastic young kiddo to now the crazy botanist? What was that path like?
Once you spend about $50,000 in the college system of the United States and you
Yeah.
get into debt, they don't tell you how you don't make enough money as a botanist to really cover that debt quickly, unless you're growing a lot of weed. You you just really go that way. So I used to be on part of a nonprofit, and while dealing with some of the people on that nonprofit who would be like, "Hey, Derek, this thing that you're doing isn't going to work. This thing that you are saying will happen isn't it." And I knew it would be true, and they would later have to like, apologize or just kind of recant whatever they said. I would, in frustration, say, "Well, I'm just a crazy botanist. I don't know what I'm talking about." So from there, um, a friend was like, "You need to like brand this. You need to make that your zhuzh." And I was like, "Oh no, people ain't want to hear me." And now, almost 5 years and 13,000 folks on the Instagram, I am really appreciative that I took a chance not only to believe in that person, but to believe in myself. So that's how this all started.
Love that. Yeah. And I do have to tell the listeners to go check out Derek on Instagram. That's, I want to say currently it's at the Chocolate Botanist. You're always
Oh,
doing
you're
the
right.
reels, and yeah, you're always I want to say you interact with people a lot. People will like submit their questions and then you'll respond, and a lot of times it has to do with say like composting or soil health and this and that, so, which I'm actually going to get into some of those rants later on, which I'm really excited about. But have there been any say, usually ask about people's herbal mentors, but who have been some of your botany mentors or
Sad to
inspirations?
say, I haven't had too many mentors.
Okay.
Inspiration, and I would love to have more. So inspiration in the now time.
Mm.
One big one is everyone's favorite Black botanist outside of me, who is everyone's favorite outside of me is the Black Forager, Alexis.
Oh yeah.
Alexis she is phenomenal. She is everything I would hope I can be to people. Um, Outside of her, I definitely love to learn more about George Washington Carver, Percy Julian, Marie Clark Taylor.
Mm.
Um, Let me see, I'm missing one. Thomas Wyatt Taylor. No, Thomas Wyatt, Marie Clark Taylor. I'm messing some names up, but there's several Black botanists and mycologists of yesteryear in decades past who got into this predominantly white field and not only broke into it, like roots will break into the foundation of a house, but they literally made some beneficial changes in the ways that we see plants or we interact with farmers or some combination therein. Um, Other inspirations have been, and people, I guess, lights, I could say that supported me at North Carolina State have been Dr. Jillian DeGiselle, my advisor formerly, Dr. Chad Jordan, Dr. Dayuzi, Dr. Carol Saravitz. This is a long list. Dr. Carol
Take your
Saravitz
time.
and Janet Shirtless. And most importantly, the one Black woman I can say that was botanical and educational there. I've never had a class with her, Dr. Terry Long, who we met a couple of times, but if she sees me in the street, she treats me as if I am close friends. And being in a
Oh,
predominantly white institution and a mostly white field, it was nice to be able to find somebody who who saw me and remembered me, and so I wouldn't feel invisible anymore. So that is a pretty much wrap up shell of botany and a thing. Scientific shows in general, Magic School Bus, Bill Nye, Beekman's Lab. A lot of people don't mention Beekman, but
Mm.
those TV shows and other educational shows of the 90s are kind of my zhuzh and my vibe. They're kind of where I go on.
Oh, Bill Nye, you're taking me back. I loved the music videos that they used to do at the end of the episodes.
Oh, I forgot about those.
Yeah. You can still watch some of those old ones on YouTube, but yeah, I loved that. And speaking of Black Forager, did you see that she was on, I want to say, Jimmy Kimmel?
She's been on Jimmy Kimmel. She has had, I can't remember the name of the TV show that she was a part of, where she did like a Family Feud, Steve
Oh,
Harvey
wow.
thing.
Yeah.
Like, she is a superstar, and I love how she is inspiring all people, but specifically Black folk,
Amen.
into getting in touch with their botanical roots. I love it.
Well, we got to get the Crazy Botanist on Jimmy Kimmel next, but we'll petition for that. But
Ready.
so speaking
Petition.
of like Black culture, I don't know if this is actually a Black culture thing or not, but I want to say is your most recent Instagram post, and you kind of had this poll going, and I had no idea what you meant, and I don't know. I think a lot of your audience didn't know. I was wondering if you could teach us, what does "don't leave your hair outside" mean?
Oh, you better be asking me about something I ain't made yet on Instagram. How about it? So here's a thing, right? In Black culture, and especially in the South, in different cultures in general, I should say, there are different habits, belief systems, rituals that we have that come from somebody's culture of yesteryear, right? So don't drop forks or silverware because you're going to bring in, invite company. Don't split the pole. That's one thing. If you ask certain Black folk about, especially in the South, and I'm an Eastern North Carolinian, if you split the pole, there are some people who will be upset with you, which means if me and you are walking and there is a fire hydrant, a pole, a light, something tall that can separate us, and you walk on the other side of that, that's bad luck. And now you done ruined some people's day. I got a sister right now who will literally either snatch me. She's a small woman. She'll snatch me and pull me back, or she'll just stop and then she'll come on the other side. But with the hair situation, it's a couple of different things. So there are some people in the Louisiana area who will be like, birds will take it and make a nest, and that'll make give you headaches, which is something that I haven't really heard. On the Eastern Carolinian southern side, if I leave my hair out, my hairbrush out in general, if I just leave hair available, if I throw hair away, that can allow somebody to cast a root on me. So a root is like a spell or a curse. And that could go from anywhere from controlling me or doing something negative, which goes into kind of the hoodoo, African-American traditional religious magical mythology. So that is what that means. So I had an ex, Mason, who literally, anytime he would brush his hair, he would take that hair without fail and flush it down the toilet so nobody could have access to it. Because there's a belief system in that of that power, even though people may not necessarily practice hoodoo, they may not necessarily believe in it, but it's been ingrained so much in our culture that it's like, yeah, no, I don't want a root on me.
Yeah, I want to say it was like a 60-40% split of people knowing what that was versus not knowing what that was. I'd never heard that. It kind of reminds me of like, don't step on a crack type of thing.
Exactly. Don't drop salt, throw it over your shoulder if you do, things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like a botany or plant related, but there you go. So speaking of Instagram and hair and rants, I had Amanda grab me this bowl of cat hair right here. This is from our beautiful cat, calico cat Luna, and I know that there's been some debate as far as composting with hair or pet hair, and I was just wondering if you could expound upon composting with hair.
So there is a guy who I think me and him should have a charity fight one day, or a charity race. He'll probably beat me because he's very wiry and I'm an asthmatic. So he'll probably win, but it's okay. I'm going to tell the people that I won because he likes to do misinformation. But the situation is, he had a video posted that was like, hey, you can compost this hair and give your plants nutrients or whatever. I can say to begin, I have composted my own hair when I've been shaving, or if any of my locks fall out, I can't put them back in because I'll reattach them like wherever they are. I will bury that that hair rather, into my vermicompost or just like outside. Even when I used to live with a woman, former roommate, she had a dog that shedded enough hair every day to make another him. Very big dog, a lot of hair shedded. I would vacuum up that hair and dirt from the carpet and just again use that in pots, and it'll eventually break down over time. It is something that you can do to add slowly over the course of a couple of years, however long it takes for it to fully break down, slowly nitrogen into your system being the pot or your compost, right? But it's a good thing you can do, but just try not to get too gross and nasty with it.
Okay. Yeah, I think Amanda had other plans for it. I think she saw some other Instagram video about people using it to create like bird nests and whatnot. And I saw that and I was like, oh, I have to ask Derek about composting hair and whatnot.
I say do it. A bird nest, I'd be worried about the smell of the cat hair scaring the birds away, which is something where I'm a little on the fence because I know like maybe the birds will be able to perceive the smell and maybe you'll be able to rinse it off or something, but I'm not too sure. But I mean, give it a try and tell me how it works out.
All right. Well, it's time for the selfish part of the show. I'm not sure if you know, Derek, but we just moved to Wisconsin. We moved to a 0.1 acre yard. So it's a pretty small yard. Amanda just ripped up half the backyard, the lawn, I should say, and then the full front yard lawn. And she started planting some seeds. We've got calendula, chamomile, borage, sunflowers, and we've got all sorts of plants going. And they seem to be sprouting and stuff like that. But I'm just kind of curious if you have any tips or tricks for either new gardens and new gardeners and or small yards. It's kind of a big question there, but what would you recommend to us if you're giving your friends some advice on what they should do with like their small yard that they're just getting going with their new herb garden?
Well, I mean, y'all are my friends, so this will be a real good conversation. So the first thing I would tell people is because we're here in these United States, you have access to cooperative extension, right? And cooperative extension is basically a generally free resource that you have in every county, in every state, that will allow you to get a lot of different botanical, pathology, fungal, let's just say that, mycological, any viral test, like a lot of different things related to what you as a plant person would go through. So the first thing I would say, if you haven't done so already, would be to go and get a soil test done. Now, different counties, different states will have different timelines and regulations on how they do their soil test. So here in Durham, because I know somebody in, because I got a person in, I don't know about y'all, but I got a person in, I can get my soil test done at any given time. But generally, you would either have to be within the growing seasons in North Carolina, pretty much spring until fall, or really just before winter, or so some counties, it's every other year, right? But you can basically get that done. It's pretty simple. You take some soil from different places in your yard, you put it in this box, fill it up to the line, tell them where it came from. You could do the front yard and the backyard, and then they'll give you a result that will, or a series of results that will tell you what's the NPK values in your yard. If you're trying to grow certain vegetation, certain produce, what you need to do, and all of that jazz. That's part one. Part two is, since you have a small yard, I would suggest looking into the square foot gardening method, which comes from Mel Bartholomew. And he was an engineer that basically was like, you know what? Plants, because engineering is boring and it's stupid, and he didn't make an Iron Man suit. I'm paraphrasing here. I'm really making up in my own mind why he said what he said, because I read through the book, but I can't remember it right now. But nonetheless, he said, I don't have an Iron Man suit. There's no Avengers. So what I need to do is get into plants, because that's where the true heroes are. And I am like Wakanda, the Black Panther, right? So with that being said, he said, he found out is, instead of doing the typical rows or typical setup in that way, you take your bed, your area, you break it up into square feet, each with a square foot block. And in that square foot block, depending on what you're growing, you can grow like 1 tomato or 9 beets or 2 sunflowers, depending on what species, you can basically break it up and you can get more growing in your growing space. I know a lot of people will be like, nah, that's stupid. But these plants that we grow, Mason, in nature, they don't grow in perfect straight lines and perfectly a foot apart and all this other stuff. They don't do that. They grow as they grow and they're big and beautiful. So in that same way, we can kind of manipulate our situation in order to get that out. And with your soil test, that will tell you whether you need to add compost or certain slow releases or whatever have you. That is what I would say. And then finalmente, I would just say have fun with it. Grow the things that you love and enjoy. You know, if you know after a hard day of working and teaching us about the herbs and rallying us together, you like to look at a bunch of different flowers, then grow you some flowers. I have sunflowers outside because I like to look at different flowers when I come home. So I would just say at the end of it, have fun with it. But soil test will definitely give you where to go and what to start from. So that way you can have the most success in your yard. In addition to observing different patterns, watching for like how light breaks into your yard so you know what areas to grow what, and just keep growing and going. That's it.
I started taking notes, but then I realized I edit these podcasts myself, so I'll just take the notes when I edit them later. So much good stuff there. So many practical takeaways. Amanda's going to love to hear all of that. I especially appreciate that last tip about just grow what you like. And that's kind of what we're doing, you know, like Amanda's a big sunflower fan as well, so we're growing a bunch of sunflowers. And my friend, she's an herbalist, Pat Greathead. She's also in Wisconsin. She's like, "Hey Mason, I'm going to get you some angelica seeds." And I was like, "Oh heck yeah, I love angelica." So yeah, I can't wait to just have like a kind of a wild. Do you like angelica too?
I feel like I might have grown angelica once, but I haven't grown it in forever, if at all.
Okay, yeah, we grew it in Oregon. Yeah, it's just big and tall and beautiful Apiaceae plant family. Absolutely adore that plant. So kind of shifting gears from say your plants in your yard to your plants in your house. Amanda and I, we were living in an RV for a little bit. And what happened was we were hoping to take 1 or 2 houseplants with us on the road, and we had to give away all the rest. And we had a bunch of houseplants. They now live with my friend Nick and I think the tea shop and Eugene. So we're just now starting to get plants again in our new home here in Wisconsin. And I'm just kind of curious. I want to say you delve into the world of houseplants as well. Do you have any just overall tips or tricks to maintain the health of your houseplants as well?
So the houseplant is pretty much a similar concept. So when I'm growing either indoor or outdoor, I have to see what the environment is doing. So that way I can have the most success, because especially when we get into the world of houseplants, there's some outdoor plants that are rare, some heirloom seeds that are very rare that we can get and grow. But with those heirloom like carrots or tomatoes, you save your seeds. You've made one investment that you don't really have to pay for ever again. If you're growing very niche weed, anybody's cannabis, you again can save those seeds after some time, and you've not have to keep buying seed. Unlike these houseplants, where when I buy a $200 or $1,000 plant, I'm not going to get seeds, if any. And if I do, I may not have time or chance to really take care of it. So the thing I'll say is observe your space. So the first thing I generally tell people is with my windows, I'll use the compass on my phone and point it at the window so I can know what direction it's facing. Because if I have a western or southern facing window, I now have good light to be able to put in a lot of my aeroids. Aeroids being your colocaceas, your alocasias, plants that you can still do outside in some areas. I think you can still do them out there where you are. Your philodendrons, your monasteries, your pothoses, your peace lilies, which I hate, and your arthuriums, which I also hate, and syngoniums. I think those are also aeroids. Typical plants a lot of us have. You can looks like you're taking notes again. You can do so you can put them in, again, take your compass app. All of us have cell phones, right? And you can point and find out western or southern. If it's eastern or northern, then you got some other stuff to do. The next thing is I say, well, what is my own care level? And that comes with just taking care of plants over time and being self-aware. Derek has had to change his plant mindset, because what I typically used to do, and I would kill a lot of plants, Mason, is I would water these plants I was bored, or I would look at them and be like, look at you, you're so cute. You need some water. And a lot of these babies in here didn't need all of that. And I lost a lot of plants that I either bought or people gave me. So that's part two. Part three is when any plant you get in, look it up and figure out what it is and how you can take care of it. Monasteras, snake plants, whatever. You can go to social media and talk to people like me, other plant influencers who can give you some good direction. You may have to pay them because you don't expect people to work for free because slavery's been over since like 1865. Juneteenth is almost here. And the other part is you could Google it and just find like a reasonable, real resource that will tell you how to take care of these plants. So that way you can have success. I have a clivia over here I'm looking at, and this clivia is hanging on for dear life. Okay. In the next month, it'll probably be with Betty White. Okay. So it's probably going to be up there because that's where the other clivia that was behind me is up there with Aretha Franklin and Tina Turner. So with that being said, when you even kill a plant, right? Don't be discouraged or dismayed. I am a whole botanist and I kill plants. My plants die, my plants wither away. And sometimes it's because I had some issue. Sometimes it's because there was a bug or disease present I didn't even notice. Sometimes it's something that I don't know. Maybe it was me, maybe it was the situation, who knows, right? So be gentle with yourself when doing it. But again, have fun. I have maybe 200 to 300 plants in here at this moment. On average, between indoor and outdoor, probably 500 plants at some shape or form, either in recession, in dormancy, or whatever. With all of these different plants, I've had to learn each of their different quirks. They're like children, right? Anybody who's a parent knows all your children are different. So after I've learned all their different quirks and then learned myself, I'm able to know this Christmas cactus I'm taking care of, it doesn't like a lot of water. So I give it very small amounts of water, or sometimes I forget to water it. I don't remember the last time I watered it a couple of weeks ago. But sometimes I not water it for 3 or 4 months, and then I'll just water it all the way through, and it's good. I have another plant which was going through a little bit, and it died. It was a fern. It needed a lot of humidity. I left for 3 days to see my family. Humidity wasn't there, and it died. Things happen. So we pick it up where we can. We acknowledge our weaknesses, our areas of improvement, and we give ourselves gentleness as we grow these plants.
I love that. So I've got this like ivy over here in the corner. This is the first podcast I'm doing. Oh, there it goes. Shit. 1 second.
And see, the sad thing is, party people, we'll see if he edits this out. Derek knocked over a bunch of stuff too. It's all about grace. I love this. That is beautiful, though.
1 second.
Take your time. You probably can't hear me, party people. I love that, though. And is there flowers on this shirt? I can't zoom in.
So I'm going to leave that in. I'm going to leave that part in. So what I was saying was I'm recording from my podcast studio in the basement closet for the first time ever. In order to improve the audio, I noticed that a lot of the podcasts I've had like echoes because I'm in the dining room and I'm like, oh, I'm going to put up this blankets and padding and like stuff on the walls. And I wanted to bring some greenery in too. So this normally lives on like the front porch area. But I was like, oh yeah, I want a little house plant here. So it does not live in the closet in the basement primarily, but yeah, it's lovely to have house plants, and it's unfortunate that I just heard it. But according to Derek, I don't have to judge myself. You know what I mean? Or if we just do the best we can, and I'm excited to be a plant daddy to many house plants again. I really miss it. It really adds a lot of vibe to the house overall. So did you have anything else you wanted to say about house plants or the fumble that I just made there?
No, you're good.
Okay, cool.
Oh, I talked while you were gone.
Okay,
when you
good.
re-edit this, you're going to see. But I knocking over plants. If you don't knock over plants, you're not a plant parent.
That's right.
It's just like bumping your kid's head on the wall. I've bumped so many children's head on the walls. I might as well be their daddy.
We're also noticing a couple of the cats are really enjoying biting the leaves, and we're trying to remedy that. We're hanging a lot more plants, and well, let's shift gears a little bit. I was alluding to this pre-show. We're trying out a new segment. It's called Giving Flowers. And this is a way for us to kind of like honor and be kind to the people that have been influential in our lives and our work. And dear listener, if you like this segment, please let me know. I just had the inspiration one day. I thought it'd be really fun, and I like the botanically themed title of it. So, Derek, how has Delphine Sellers and her sister Lucille been beneficial in your life and changed your plant path?
Let me tell you this. When I first met that Delphine and Lucille,
Yeah.
it's more than my plant path, but my life.
Amen.
And I'm going to be real transparent here, because I think I've told this story, but might not have. So you might be getting a first scoop, Mason.
Sweet. Here we go. Breaking news.
So several years ago, God, I'm old. I wanted to be a part of somebody's nonprofit, and I wanted to get into that sector and expand my skill set. I had a friend who was like, Derek, I know this woman. These two women, they are phenomenal. They're from Little Washington. Those of you that North Carolinians, you know what I'm talking about, near Chocolate in New Bern. And she was like, they just are the business, they the truth, da 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 da. I said, I'm going to meet them one day. And the day we ended up setting up was my birthday. Several years ago, maybe 2013, 2012 was my birthday, July 11th. My mom was in town with my brother. I brought them with me to North Durham. I lived in the Raleigh area. And when I got to the area, this country patch behind this church, Mount Level Baptist out there in North Durham, it reminded me of my great-grandmother's yard.
Mm.
And, growing up in New Bern, the country, you kind of see, some areas that have been gentrified, some areas that have been kind of turned around and reclaimed by the city, some areas that have been just basically, updated, quote unquote, to become city. But there's still some areas like of New Bern and again of Durham that still have that old vibe, that old country road, that old and bunch of house with a bunch of land up there. You pass a couple of neighbors, but somebody's got the big lot, stuff like that, right? So, and my great grandmother's land was like that. It still is like that, even in its depreciated state. We had lost my grandmother some years prior, and while my mom was still trying to be at peace with it, she still had some grief she was working through. When we got out there, I noticed, because, we all know our parents, I noticed you're having some trouble here. Because I already see, this reminds me of my great-grandmother's yard. An area that you were at, you have some grief with that still. And she's like, no, I'm fine. And I'm like, okay, I know you're lying, but because I'm trying to get out here and meet these people, I'm not going to, and I'm trying to make a scene because I don't know Delphine and Lucille yet. I'm like, let's just see what happens. We get out there, Mason, and me and Delphine and Lucille, we meet. I kind of shake hands. I'm like, what? They feel like family to me. Let's hug. The land is beautiful. The community garden they were a part of. And my mom is walking behind me, and I can hear her sniffling. She's crying now because she's like, oh, this is so beautiful. And I can see the vision of what y'all are doing. And she's breaking down because this reminds, again, of her grandmother, my great-grandmother. I try to go to her. Lucille, short woman, I'm 6'2", for those that don't know me in real life. So everybody is short to me. Okay. Lucille stands in front of me. She's like, no. You walk with Delphine. I'll handle Mama. I don't know this woman from a can of paint. But something in my spirit said, she's going to be okay with her. I said, okay. I walked away. Me and Delphine talked. She showed me the garden. Delphine is so articulate. Delphine is that woman. She is Black girl magic before the term ever existed. She is Black excellence. And by the time I got done, and she was like, and she kind of asked, like, is your mom okay? Like, is this just and I told her, she's like, well, we're going to keep you in prayer. We understand. We know people in New Bern. There we go. I'm real famous today because I keep getting all these phone calls. We know people in New Bern. Nobody wanted to call me all day, and they never want to call until I'm on the Zoom or live. We know these people in New Bern. Yeah. Da 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 da. I said, it's okay. I talked to Delphine for maybe 20, 30 minutes. My brother, I think, was with me. By the time we had got done talking, my mom, you would, if you just came in right after that, you wouldn't have known she had a whole breakdown. Lucille basically resolved it. She's like, I gave her my number. Here's some preserves. You call me. We prayed, and it's going to be okay. I said, all right then. And ever since then, these two women have been my family. If they need me, they know at any time I'll be there. And if I'm going through and I call them broken, they will lift me back up. Outside of them teaching me grant writing, outside of me watching them work to build at least 2 community gardens, because we ended up starting another nonprofit called Urban Community Agronomics. Outside of me watching them fight for land, right, and fight to show that Black folks can do it, they have been beautiful people to me. So I give them flowers of roses, of chrysanthemums, of sunflowers, and I already said mums, of asters, other asters, because they deserve it. When people not only gift you plants, I got 2 plants right here. Delphine gave me cuttings of, right? I have garlics that she's given me. These people give you plants, and that's something easy to do, but to give you peace, to give you a family, to give you that respite, that is something deeper. And I love all these plants in here, but that is something deeper. So to Delphine and Lucille, I know Mason is going to tag the UCAN people in this on the Instagram and on the YouTube. But to you two, I honor you as Black women, as Black excellence. You know I thank y'all and love y'all. And I give you flowers.
Oh, I got like the biggest thing of goosebumps. I really love that segment. So I'm so glad that we're doing this. And yeah, it's interesting, Derek. Like when I was asking you if you wanted to do this segment, I was like, is it okay that I choose for you? And I feel like I made the right choice. But moving forward, do you think it's better to give the person the opportunity to choose, or should I like kind of do it how I did it with you, where I just kind of suggest somebody just for my own feedback?
See, that was easy. Yeah. That was easy because I know them too.
Yeah.
Like, again, we are family. I will call them. They will call me. If you need something last minute, I may be a little frustrated, but I'm there. And they are there with me, right?
Yeah.
So it's something where if you already know the people have a relationship, and I think that's really where this segment comes in. To have a relationship, guys, in this plant community is ever more priceless, because I can have these plants with me, and this goes into ethnobotany. I know, and I'm agreeing with you doing this, but if I have a relationship with somebody, not only can I give you flowers, but when I have these plants with me, and I'm their age, in my 60s, turning to my 70s, and they've gone on to the upper room with Jesus in them, I can be able to tell my people, whoever's around me, I can remember when I showed Mason these plants however many years ago, all 30 years ago, and Delphine did this, and she showed me this, and now the memories come, and the relationship comes, and everything is tightened. So I say definitely yes. If you already know, like, hey, they got a relationship with this person, or they've done something with this person, definitely. But definitely, like you did with me, still give me the room. But I loved it, and I'm here for it, and I thank you for that.
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing, Derek. Kind of along the same lines, I was hoping you could tell the audience about the project that you may work on in the future at some point. It's called the Botanical Green Book. And this isn't to be like, hey, Derek, remember when you were doing that for HerbRally? This is really just to highlight the actual project. I know that you've had a hell of a year and 2 years, or however, whatever. Like, we don't even need to go into that, because no big deal.
Oh God.
I don't even want it to be presenting in that way. What I really want you to do. Yeah, okay, good. Because I think me and Amanda would love to go to North Carolina, hang out with a bunch of people at some point, and do some filming with you, and maybe do some continuation of that project in some regard. But besides that, I'm just kind of curious.
I would love that.
Mostly, I think that'd be rad to do it in person, and especially with all the connections you have over there and everything. But I think the story itself as to why you want to do the project is a fascinating enough topic alone. So again, not to like go over the be like, hey, Derek, why didn't you keep doing it? But more like, can you tell people what your inspiration behind the Botanical Green Book is?
So that is a very good question. So here's what had happened. Derek had wanted to do a TV show or do some type of show because I would get hit up by TV people and it would go nowhere. I would
Yeah.
do interviews, I would send in content, and this is for any of you who are getting hit up and just going nowhere. It feels like you're going nowhere, I should say. I would be frustrated because I know I'm a whole vibe. I'm a whole personality. And I'm not hearing anything from these people. And there were some people in my life, some sisters I support and I trust, who were like, why not just do your own thing? And I was like, but the TV, they're already doing it. So I reflected and I reflected. In addition to, I had wanted to have like a Black directory of plant folks to be able to
Mm.
go through and to do stuff with. And for some of you who are listening and you're like, he's mentioning Black a lot, I am. And if you have a problem with it, you need to look at the man in the mirror because you got an issue, not me. But I support the Black folks and I go with Black folks for plant stuff because we are a part of this field and the foundation of it, of botany, of horticulture, agriculture, in whatever way you want to spin it. But we oftentimes have ran away from it from negative connotations related to the transatlantic slave trade. So I wanted to do something, and I don't know if I was praying one day or reflecting, but it was kind of like a green book. And I just kept being like a green book because it's just a book of green people. Then it was like, wait a minute, the green book.
Yeah.
Like what Black people used to make sure they were going to safe spaces and safe places back when traveling as a Black person meant that you could most likely turn up dead or never turn up and be dead. So I ended up basically pushing the show or pitching the show to Mason before life hit me and I dropped it. But I pitched the show to Mason in the manner to be like, hey, this I want to do, and this is the reason why. And again, as a quick background, the Green Book was a literal book that told you as an African American person during the Jim Crow era, this is how you can traverse the world as far as the United States and be able to be safe. There are still cities that are called sundown towns where if a Black person is there after sunset or even as it arrives there, they will either be chased and have to escape with their lives or they will be dead. There are areas of North Carolina even that I still know where I'm like, I'm not going to go there because me as a 6'2" African American person, no matter the height really, as an African American person, I'm not welcome. So having that book gave Black folks the liberty to travel without as many worries as they would have. And I want y'all to really think about that. To be able to traverse the world as we can now, you, Mason, you can go to any park, any trail, any field with anything on you. You could have an assault rifle on your back. You can have on a racist memorabilia or homophobic memorabilia, or just be dressed regular like you are now, like a real swagger with it, right? You can be dressed up and you can do anything and you won't have many problems. But even to this day, there are some areas where I will go to or be in where I'll have to notice like, is this person looking at me because they're attracted or because they are looking past me, or is it because they're looking at me in fear and terror, which has happened in this neighborhood I live in.
Sure.
Where there was one guy who used to take walks at night. There was one guy who I would see, a white gentleman, and I would see him at night. We would both be walking. We would have the same walk schedule. And most people, I just, hey, what you doing? I'm playing on my phone. I'm listening to music. I'm on live. I'm doing something. But him, I would notice he would look like I was a Gila Gila monster. And he would like either go to the complete opposite side of the street or he would just like, he just would give me suspicious vibes. So I stopped walking.
Yeah.
I simply stopped because I'm like, I don't need myself to be a hashtag in a negative way because somebody's fear and apprehension at my Blackness done made me dead. So that's where that Green Book idea came from. And I wanted folks to be able to know these are the Black plant people and the plant shops you can go to where you won't feel like an outcast, where it's like some plant shops that still have it today. You won't be supporting somebody who really don't support you, and you can find Black people to give your money to.
Yeah, I love that project idea, and I think it is really important work, and I hope you do pick it up, whether with its HerbRally or not. I think it's a really neat idea, and you should feel welcome and everything like that. Have you ever seen the Key and Peele skit called Hoodie, I want to say? Basically,
The hoodie one where he puts the hood, he's getting pulled up on.
Yeah.
And I love Key and Peele. And because
me
they would
too.
talk a lot about race in a funny way that would make you think. And I love that, right? So I'm noticing I keep looking over here because I'm used to my camera being over here, but it's actually over here. So this is going to be a fun thing for you to edit because I'm not looking nowhere. So the Key and Peele skill, he's walking up. There's like a policeman, maybe woman up on him. And right before the policeman gets up, he flips his hoodie up. And it's like a white face on the side.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, ha, ha. And I wish I had that. If
Yeah.
that was something that was really real, I would pay big money to be able to make sure, especially when I'm in some areas that or in some situations, I would have no words. Big money I would pay. And I'm as cheap as can be.
It's
big money.
We love Key and Peele too. And it's interesting how like Peele has kind of started doing like more horror type genre movies. And it just shows his range and talent. But that hoodie one was the only time a skit of theirs actually gave me like chills, and like it really makes you feel a certain type of way. And yeah, it's just really well done. It's short and simple, and it packs a big punch with the message. Another one of their skits is all about black ice, or black guys. I don't know if you know that, but anyways, that one's just really
Watch
funny.
out for dangerous black ice. I love that one. The other one, even where the aliens are, it's like a zombie apocalypse or an alien apocalypse. And they're like, oh, is this person an alien? Oh, yeah, he trusted us. And then one guy's like, I have no money, please. Ah! And he ran off. And I'm like, you were racist, but you could have almost got shaved. I think they ended up shooting him in the head. And it was like, yeah, he was an alien. So it was hilarious. Their stuff and Peele's, Jordan rather.
Yeah.
Jordan Peele, even in that show, because when you really watch some of the stuff, there's still like horror things in there.
Totally.
Like the Jamaican vampire.
I haven't seen that one.
And it's like, oh, like that. You have to look it out. I'm not even going to ruin it for you.
Okay.
Look up Jamaican vampire, Key and Peele.
Okay.
And you'll see. It's like, oh, like when you see his movies and then you rewatch the series, it's like, oh, I see what happened. This was you.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I've seen a lot of their stuff, but I haven't seen that one. But so making the natural transition from Key and Peele to hibiscus, I was asking you about what plant do you kind of want to talk about in the show, and you mentioned hibiscus. So I was hoping you could kind of teach us a little bit about hibiscus.
Hibiscus. So Derek has his tablet here because I want to make sure I'm not saying nothing wrong, because I know you people, you HerbRally people, are phenomenal, knowledgeable folks. And what I don't want to do is have a bunch of people like, he don't know what he's talking about. So Here we go. So for Juneteenth, for this month, typically when I have an event that I'm going to for Juneteenth, where I'm actually like, I have a sister who have a house party for Juneteenth, I will make a red drink. And this red drink is significant in the Black culture because if you talk to your African-American friends who have a trust in you, if you're not African-American, and you ask them about red drinks, red Kool-Aid, red something, there's something about that color that just makes me want to drink something. And even right now, I have like red stuff over here, strawberry syrups and vinegars that are bright red. And I'm like, oh, you look so delicious. And it's ingrained in me from that culture. So the color red and those red drinks were seen by the African cultures of yesteryear to be a celebratory thing, right? This was a drink that we would have to celebrate or commemorate something big. And one of those drinks would typically involve cola nut and roselle, which would make your drink red. Roselle is also known as sorrel if you are in the Bahamian or the Caribbean persuasion, if you're in that arena. And as roselle is known as hibiscus, sab, Darifa. I practiced it right before I said it. I got up here so I wouldn't stutter, but I knew it would happen. Sabdarifa. And just a side note, if you're ever trying to pronounce some of these Latin names, these specific epithets, and you're struggling, as somebody once told me, most of the people that made these names are dead, so they can't do anything to you if you say the Latin wrong. So, and again, this was a plant native to Africa, is a plant native to Africa, specifically West Africa, and it's found in India and all types of other places. A lot of different cultures use it from Asia to Australia. But again, for the African peoples, they use different parts of the plants, like the leaves, in order to make different stews and soups, and the flowers without the calyx, the green part around it, to make drinks. Okay. In addition, if you go to a Latinx or Hispanic restaurant, and they have something called, it's spelled Jamaica, but it's pronounced Jamaica with that H. That is also sorrel. That is also that hibiscus. So typically it'll be right beside the horchata. So the beverage is typically made with the flour, some coconut, maybe some cloves, and they add sugar to it to sweeten it up. So typically, with my secret recipe, I'm not going to do you all my recipe, but I will use a bunch of sorrel, some ginger, and other top secret herbs I'm not going to tell all y'all because y'all ain't going to be in my business, along with some sweeteners in order to make a bright red, fruity drink. With me, sorrel is more of an earthy flavor than I would typically like, than most people would typically like. So if I use it in a tea or a drink, I typically, or if you get it in a tea, I should say, it's typically combined or paired with something that gives it a more fruity or sweet flavor, like strawberries or something floral in nature, something fruity in nature, because it can be kind of earthy and that can take some people aback. So typically I mentioned strawberries, use some strawberries to add something to it, or another earthy herb like cinnamon or ginger in order to improve its palatability. Because while I don't mind drinking something earthy, a lot of the folks I make drinks for get real upset when I do that. And they talk about me real bad, Mason. They talk about me real bad. So that is what that plant is. I'm growing that plant outside right now. Again, it's an hibiscus. So I'm growing it in zone 7 in the United States. Hopefully I'll be able to harvest some because I got a couple of plants outside. I got one from a person in Atlanta whose name is escaping me right now, but I'm real upset that I didn't remember it because she is awesome. Yeah. And this is actually the shorter of the comments that I have. That is all I can say about the hibiscus or the sorrel plant.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. Can you remind me what you called that drink? Was it just red drink, or did I miss that part?
Yeah, you can be a red drink, or again in the Jamaican. Did I say Jamaican? In the Caribbean, it's called sorrel. SORREL.
Gotcha. That's really interesting that they include cola nut too. I want to say there's caffeine in that plant. So maybe
I believe so.
Yeah. That sounds absolutely delicious. I'm gonna have to look up some different recipes. Not Derek's recipe. He's got a secret recipe. So
oh yeah, that recipe ain't online. Recipe ain't online. I got it, and it's actually probably hidden somewhere in this house because I wrote it down. And I don't remember if I wrote it down on this iPad or in my secret recipe book that's hidden under lock and key.
Okay, well, we're going to continue along with some plants. This is a pretty common plant. It's called banana. And I've seen banana. I've seen banana and banana peel mentioned on your Instagram quite a bit recently, I want to say. And I'm just curious if you could speak to anything about bananas, banana peels, or if you want to go on any sort of rant regarding GMOs, or if they're all connected somehow. But if I say the word banana, what does that want to bring up for you to kind of talk about?
So to any of the African-American people listening who support a gentleman called Dr. Sebi, I want you to listen real close at what I'm about to say, because this may offend you, especially if you're listening. You probably don't like me because I talk bad about Dr. Sebi, but it's okay. He's dead, so he can't hurt me. When it comes to the banana plant, bananas are in the genus Musa, Musa, and the banana plant has a varied history within the United States and within the world because, number one, the plant in a long time ago prior to human intervention had these hard seeds that did not make it as easy to eat as it is now. So imagine if you peeled your banana and you couldn't just bite, but you had to like scoop seeds out, right? That wouldn't be something you can take on your runs before you go to the Starbucks or to the Target, right?
Yeah.
So you couldn't just give this to your 2-year-old and just mush a banana because you'd have to take those seeds out. So over time, the plant was bred to have basically sterile seeds in it that were of no effect to us as a people. Part two is if you go to a place called the Banana Republic, and I'm going to come back to GMOs and CB. If you go to a place called the Banana Republic, that name comes from basically U.S. meddling in the affairs of South America, where those bananas were being imported from, where people were trying to, and the story, I should have looked it up, but you got me with this one.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Derek is going off of memory, guys.
Yeah.
Derek is going off of memory, but look it up. So the American peoples were like, Some people were like, we don't want to pay more for bananas, so we're going to overthrow political leadership in a South American place in order to get bananas to be cheaper. And those banana republics ended up being the inspiration for the name of that store that I don't go into because they don't have clothes that fit me. Part three, when it comes to banana water and any of those plant hacks, all you're doing is wasting your time. And if you wanted to waste your time, I would tell you to go and mop up the sea floor because I think you would have more chances to finish that than making something really reasonable with banana water. Banana water is the process of taking your peels and you put them in water and it's supposed to give your plants potassium. And we say that because all of us know to a certain extent that bananas have a decent amount of potassium. So the peels are magically supposed to have all this potassium that you can then transfer to your plants. What does potassium do in your plants? I ask you this because I'm a whole botanist and I cannot remember what that specific nutrient does offhand. But some of you will say, I need to add potassium to my plant, and you have no clue what it does. But somebody told you did, so you go and do it, and then your plant ends up getting a disease, or it does nothing, and you're like, it's working, but it had no effect or a negative effect, and then you're embarrassed and you'll say nothing about it. And then the final thing, so the thing I'll say about that is if you're going to get banana peels, compost them. Get a bokashi bin, Bokashi bin, or bokashi grain, and you can do a compost indoors or get you some earthworms, vermicompost, and do that in order to make a compost tea that will then give you your plants what you need because you're just making a soupy mess that could potentially give your plants or make your soil, your system have a disease that could potentially kill your plants. You can, again, potentially do nothing. So you've just wasted time of your life doing nothing. And then the final thing with GMOs. GMOs, what can I say about them? Genetically modified organisms. A lot of people will say that certain bananas are GMOs or things that are seedless are GMO, but they never eat a seeded banana that actually has a seed you can grow something with. I know a person that I value dearly, very sweet soul, looks for seeded watermelon, and seeded grapes, but you never look for seeded bananas that you have to spit the seeds out with. Why is that? Why do you not look for those things, but you want these other things? Because you're learning from somebody who doesn't know what the ham sandwich they are talking about. And when you take from somebody who knows nothing, they've now put nothingness into you. And I don't want you to have nothingness in you because you deserve better than that. So when it comes to genetically modified organisms, they are a part of our food supply, but it's not one. There's only 12 crops that are a part of GMOs, and of those 12 crops, they are, and I looked this up a while back, they are crops that are GMO. And of those 12 crops, a lot of them typically go to animal feed. So let me see here. I used to be able to have a list. 2013 GMO canola made. Canola is a plant where you can get canola oil. It's also known as rapeseed. You can get 95% of that was GMO. Sugar beets from the GMOs, 99% of all sugar beets harvested. So corn, is generally GMO, soybeans, cotton, potato, papaya, summer squash, canola, alfalfa, apple, sugar beets, and pink pineapple. Nothing about that says any of the other things that we will consider GMOs. So remember, GMOs are typically plants that have been modified with a gene from another unrelated species. So the BT corn that produces Bacillus thuringiensis was modified to be able to have that organism in it. So that way it would be already ready. Or the corns and soybeans that are Roundup ready, right? So you have genes from either a bacteria or a mold or fungus that was able to basically survive in Roundup. They took those genes out and put it into different vegetable species. So that way you could spray Roundup on everything else and not kill your plants. GMOs are typically not harmful unless you get like a strawberry that has genes from a fish or salmon, and you are allergic to fish or salmon. And now you have those genes and that could potentially, not always, but potentially cause you a problem. Or to the environment. If those genes that are Roundup ready are taken out by a thrip or a fungus and then magically can find their way, which is possible, into the genome of like dandelion, for example, Taraxum officinale, or any of those species, we now have a problem because the weeds that we don't want in our landscapes, which are trying to grow and survive like everything else, can now be GMO ready. But GMOs are not bad. And if you don't like GMOs and you're like, Dr. Sebi told me not to eat them, but he told you to eat sweet potatoes, he is a dead liar, because GMOs, sweet potatoes, have been in existence since 8,000 years ago, where it happened naturally in nature, where genes from different organisms got into the sweet potatoes naturally. So any sweet potato that you will eat, for the most part, 99.9%, I want to say even 100% of them, are all genetically modified. Boom, rant over.
I'm so glad I asked. Okay. Thank you, Derek. I love it. Well, do you maybe have like 15 more minutes or 10 more minutes or so?
I got all the time you need.
Sweet. Yeah. There's just a couple more, like, let's get to know Derek type of questions. So, what's a hobby that you have outside of the realm of plants? Like just some random hobby of yours. What do you like to do?
I love painting. I love painting and drawing. I don't do it as often as I used to. And I have some paintings like over here in the corner that I did. This one I didn't do, but the rest of these I did. And I typically do like abstracts, or I draw like random beasts and stuff. I love painting pots, which kind of deals with plants, but doesn't. So that's something I'll typically do. I'll spray paint some pots, do some marbling.
Yeah.
And like if I typically give a person a gift and the pot is painted, most likely I did it. Especially if it's like abstract or marbled or ombre, chances are I did it. So those are some of my hobbies. I love playing video games. I used to be like a big PlayStation gamer.
Yeah.
I didn't do like competitions and stuff. I wasn't on that level, but I could definitely beat some people in Tekken with some Eddie Gordo or Voldo in the Soul Calibur series, if you know what I'm saying. Time Splitters was my joint. Need for Speed and Rumble Racing. I loved all those games. And I watch a lot of TV and YouTube. So I typically will binge some shows. I'm watching The Orville right now and catching up on that. And
you recommend
Queen Charlotte, I just finished. I recommend it because it's funny in like it's a satire kind of parody of really both of like the Star Trek and Star Wars, not Star Trek and the other show. Oh my God. There was Captain Kirk and Captain Picard. I don't remember the name of these shows, but
those were Star Trek, yeah.
Both of them were Star Trek?
Yeah, Captain Kirk was the first one. Captain Picard was Next Generation Star Trek.
Beautiful. So it's like those shows and that Stargate. It's a very intriguing, cerebral show, and it's funny. So I do enjoy that. I just finished The Flash, which was a good run. I loved how they ended the series. Some stuff was still stupid, but I enjoyed how they ended the series and how they wrapped up some loose ends like we hoped they would. So I love watching stuff like that in comedies. Those are pretty much my hobbies. Yeah.
Cool. Do you still go on, I want to say before when I talked to you, you'd go on like lots of walks. Do you still do lots of walks?
So I haven't done a lot of walking in a while, mainly because I've just been lazy. And then, especially when it gets cold, there's just real reasons.
For
So
sure.
walking around the neighborhood, I told you about the guy who was like, "Ugh," anytime I'd walk by. So
That put
I
a
feel
damper on
like
it.
I feel like he moved because I haven't seen him in a while, but I also stopped walking outside, so I'm not sure. But every so often I'll be like, you know what, let me just go and take a walk in the woods. And I need to do that more. So next week I'm actually going on a walk with a friend, and I need to just set up monthly times to go on trails and walks with her just to enjoy life and nature. So yeah.
I love it. Let's do a random question from the Let's Get Deep Friends edition deck. I don't know what it's going to be, and let's see what happens here. What was your favorite food growing up?
Oh God, I love so much food.
Yeah.
One food I can really say
You
that
and
I
I are
always do,
so alike in
because
so many ways.
I love so much food because my family are just good cooks, and there's certain things that
Yeah.
I wanted from each of my family members. One thing that my grandmother used to cook a lot of, that she hasn't made in a very long time for me. She used to cook neck bone and dumplings, and with the neck bones, it come like collards, and the dumplings weren't like the thin kind of like puff pastry dumplings, but they were big white dumplings. And I need to get that recipe from her. I love the potato salad. I love I loved pizza growing up. My great
Oh
aunt,
yeah.
God rest her soul, she would cook breakfast for me, and she would just make it in a certain way that sometimes I try to replicate. So there were different foods I enjoyed from different family members of mine, and then some that I still do right now.
So the rules of the game is I got to answer two, and it's funny. I think of like pizza comes to mind, but then like I remember like if I had a choice between like say going to the movies or the arcade or like an all you can eat restaurant, I'd choose like the all you can eat restaurant by far. Like I've always loved food too. Like that was like my favorite treat to do. Just
Oh
get
yes.
all this different random foods and stuff like that. So yeah, I totally feel you on that. But
Oh, I love it.
yeah, well, it's kind of the last question before we learn more about where to find out more about you and everything. But what keeps you learning and growing? Usually I say what keeps you learning and growing in herbalism, but what keeps you learning and growing in the field of botany? Why do you do what you do?
I keep trying to learn and grow because I believe that all of us are eternally, as long as we're on the earth, trying to gain some understanding or something, right? So whether it's somebody on social media saying something that I believe is BS and me being like, oh, well, they're right, or me knowing it's BS and then trying to figure out the exacts of like what to say and how to say,
Yeah.
or some forager again like Alexis, um, somebody will show me something and I'll be like, oh, this is cool. And I think it just comes from a inner place of me that is fascinated with learning and trying to discover more about the world. When it comes to what keeps me learning, I'll typically go through the social medias and see what people are talking about. When I post those questions and people ask me different things,
Yeah.
there's sometimes where people will tell me stuff that I didn't know, like the birds putting the the hair into the nest and
Yeah.
it gives you headaches. That's a cultural thing that is again more centralized to Louisiana in them that I haven't heard. When it
Yeah.
comes, so I'll try to take all that stuff and make it a part of me and be like, wow, like this is so cool. And lastly, I'll sometimes just go to YouTube and I'll watch like a SciShow or Botany is a crime. Botany doesn't pay.
Oh, I know that
Something like that.
channel.
There's one of the
Yeah.
yes.
I know
So
exactly what you're
I'll
talking
watch
about.
some of these. I'll watch some of these YouTubers, and I'll be like, let me learn about this, or let me learn about that, or I'll go to a seminar at the University of the North Carolina Botanical Gardens, and I'll be like, oh, you're teaching me about like the cultural uses of these plants with Native American peoples. So it is sometimes where I'm like, you know what, I need to learn something new. Or I'll use like AI, like ChatGPT, to be like, teach me about this or tell me about that. And I'll verify that it's not just making up stuff. And I'm like, wow, like that's cool. So it just depends.
Yeah, you've got a big curiosity, it sounds like.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
the
Big
learning
curious
never
energy.
ends. Yeah. I love that.
Oh yes.
It's life should never be boring, you know. Like I want to say my social media tag or my saying or what my quote is, stay curious. It's definitely you should never be bored. There's always something new to learn and everything. Do you have any projects or anything upcoming that you'd like to promote to the HerbRally audience, or just your Instagram page? Or
Sure.
yeah.
I'll promote all of it. I
Yeah,
love
please do.
shameless plugs. I love it
Maybe
all.
your t-shirts
So,
or
oh yes, this is not my t-shirt. This is a
right.
t-shirt though from Nora Plant Club. So if you want to get that shirt, do it quick. But
Oh,
the big thing that I will say is Derek is going to be doing classes in the near future. So if you're not part of my newsletter, I need to put that link in my bio. Hopefully, between myself, my administrative assistant, and my website designer, which is all me, I will hopefully get that done very soon. The manager, which is also me, is also going to fire all three of those guys one day.
Yeah.
But I can't because I've known them my whole life. So when it comes to all those things, I'm going to have classes soon.
Nice.
And links up on my bio where you can, again, sign up to be part of my newsletter so you can hear more about what I do and how I do it. And I'm going to be, for those of you who've been a part of it and you're like, I never see anything, you'll hopefully be seeing more messages soon because I'm trying to do now monthly newsletters. So that way I'm not flooding your inbox. Because one thing I hate is when organizations just mail me every week about something or every month or newsletters that I'm now signed up on. I don't know how I got up there. I am not for some of these things. And somehow I'm just part of it and it's just like done. So you'll be seeing that. I am selling merch on my website, thechocolatebotanist.com. And if you go to that and look at my store, you'll be able to see my shirts that are for sale, the slides for Black Girl Plantic, which is like a frame on Black Girl Magic, and my stickers, which are just my logo, which is my face. You'll be able to see that, and more stuff will be coming soon because I have other ideas that I'll be designing and putting up there. So that is that. And then finally, Mente, I will have a class going very soon for the American Underground, which will be for their members. So if you are in the North Carolina area in the Triangle and you're at the American Underground in Durham, you'll be seeing me in July. And for those who are familiar with Durham bottling, I am talking with them to do a course or class there very soon. I am a part of the North Carolina Botanical Gardens Board of Directors, so I'll be doing stuff with them some way, shape, or form soon. And again, if you follow me on all of my platforms, the Facebook, the Chocolate Botanist, Instagram, the YouTube, I am a Chocolate Botanist everywhere, including TikTok. The only place I'm not is on Twitter, where I am Crazy Botanist, because Elon Musk didn't want me to use the whole word chocolate. You can't put all those letters in there, and I don't understand why they put a limit on it, but it is what it is. So follow me, check out my website. It takes you to every place that I am, and more will be seen from me soon. See my content, ask me questions in my DM, and if you want me to come and speak at your organization, please let me know, and I'll send you my media kit.
Thank you. Actually, I don't know if you have time to explain. I've always been kind of curious why you went from the Crazy to the Chocolate Botanist. Are you?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
So
I've always been curious.
Here's what had happened, right? So we told the story earlier. Friend said it, go for it, boom, boom, boom. I started being like, hey, single chocolate botanist here, single man chocolate skin here. I'm a whole chocolate botanist. And I would do that in some of the lives. I would be on some of the podcasts. I'd be on to be like, if you know somebody who doesn't look too bad on the eyes and they need a chocolate botanist in their life, you send them my way because Derek is here for the play. And I had another friend, both of these people are like marketing, graphic people. Another friend who was like, Derek, I know you're attached to the name of Chocolate Botanist. This is actually Soul Sister Plants. I'll put her name out there. Lucretia, she was like, you need to take this name and really do it, because the Chocolate Botanist, like you're seeing the reaction, but you're not really seeing the reaction you get over the Crazy Botanist. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of a lot of change. I can sometimes be very adaptive, but some things I really attach to, I'm very slow to change on. So I was like, I don't know. I really love this name, and I already have everything there. I got the domain.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do? And she's like, I'm just saying, like, you do whatever you want to because you've grown and everything. But that's just my 2 cents. I just figured I would tell you. Da 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 da. So I said, I thank you because she is such a great woman and a great plant Instagrammer and a great plant person in general to have in your corner. So I said, all right, let me see. And I prayed and reflected on it. And I was like, you know what? I just kind of took it for a test trial. I was like, chocolate botanist. I'm a whole chocolate botanist. And people loved it. And especially, you see how you laughing right now.
I like it.
Especially the white folks, Mason. They all get tickled when I say chocolate botanist. And I would notice like they, and then the thing is people would ask, well, what is chocolate? And I'm like, my skin.
Yeah.
I'm the chocolate. And now they are like, oh, and they get so tickled. And I'm like, you know what?
Guilty.
His name is really doing it. Because you got tickled.
Yeah.
It works. Because it brings joy. It brings some laughter. And now it makes you curious as to, okay, well, let's learn more about this guy and who he is. So I did a rebrand, as you saw.
Yeah.
And I still own both domains.
Sure.
And I will own, because I've been using both names. So I have all of that there. I had the trademarks and everything. But I was like, So that's what had happened. It was literally a great Black woman who said, hey, like, I really think you struck gold here and you need to go with it. And again, me being a whole African-American chocolate skin, like, looks so delicious. Like, look at this. Look at this. I make chocolate products I rub on my body so I can smell and taste like chocolate. And the people love it. So that is how that came up. I'm glad you asked.
I'm glad I asked too. Right on. Well, again, that's thechocolatebotanist.com and at the Chocolate Botanist on Instagram. Of course, links will always be in the show notes and YouTube description and everything. Thank you so much, Derek, for taking the time today. That was a lot of fun.
I know.
And yet,
thank you for having me here.
Too.
Yes. Thank you for having me here. I'm always so appreciative to be in any space. And Mason, thank you for everything you and Amanda have done here and in the background. I appreciate you both.
I love it. Thank you so much, Derek. We really appreciate it. And let's definitely do a round 2 and a round 3 and a round 4 and all the above. Let's continue to hang out and share plant stories and everything. So thanks y'all for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Herbalist Hour. Take care. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the HerbRally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at HerbRally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from HerbRally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.